that. Why did you fall down? Okay. We got a water bottle. Got our Christmas stories. Okay. And now we need to find another book for tonight. Why do you unplug it? It doesn't help charge anything if it's unplugged. Okay. There we go. Can you get into bed, please? So we can read? Where's your tablet? Go get your other tablet so that you're in here. Okay. I'll go get it. You won't pass everywhere else if you do that. Here. Here, have your Russian, it sounds like Daddy Finger song, but I don't know, they're using balloons. Okay, let's do Snuggle Time Prayer, and then we'll do our Christmas stories. How about that? That's weird. Okay, what are you watching? I don't know, some weird balloons just kissed and now they're getting exploded. Okay, good stuff. Oh, that's horrifying. Okay. So, let's get in here, huh? Alright. So we're going to start with Snuggle Time Prayers. I like that I'm showing you the book, but I'm so far away from the camera as if you can see this from over there. Gotta figure out like a medium ground for recording. If I record on my phone, I would do that. Okay. Snuggle time, mister. There's a time for everything. Yeah. Time to snuggle in my bed. Time to climb the stairs. Time to thank God for this day. Time to say my prayers. Thank you for my comfy bed. Thank you for my bear. Thank you that I'm warm and safe. Please, Lord, hear my prayer. Or snuggles, I like snuggles. Good night, God. Give thanks to the Lord. Good night, God. It's time to sleep. I put away my toys. And I just want to thank you for a happy, fun-filled day. For everyone I played with. For food and fun and rest. For every smile that came my way. Thanks, God. You're the best. God's love. See what amazing love the Father has given us. And she is precious tonight. Yeah. God, when I think about your love, can you guess what I see? I see a snuggly blanket wraps itself around me. Your love is warm and cozy. It's with me day and night. And when I'm wrapped in your great love, everything feels right. Your little lamb, the Lord is my shepherd. He gives me everything I need. God, I am your little lamb. You give me all I need. You always keep me in your care. I'll follow where you lead. Wherever life may take me, one special thing I know. My shepherd's love and goodness will never let me go. I am amazing. How you made me is amazing and wonderful. God, you made me special. There's no one quite the same. You made me look the way I am. You even know my name. What's your name? Isn't that amazing? God, you made me wonderful. There's only one of me. And every single day I live, your precious child I'll be. Where is God? You can be just assured that my glory fills the whole earth. God, you're in the sunshine. God, you're in the breeze. God, you're in the clouds above. God, you're in the seas. God, you're in the moonlight. God, you're in the air. God, you're in the stars that shine. God, you're everywhere. It's true. Look, there's no badgers. There's no badgers. And look, one's got glasses and they're sharing cake. Well, maybe if you wouldn't put your head down when we shampoo, you wouldn't get soap in your eyes and it wouldn't irritate you. Maybe if you'd listen to mommy and put your head up like I tell you to, that wouldn't happen. Yeah. It's a nail in the wall, Athena. It's not a bug. You can't eat it. God, you are amazing, and you can be sure that I am always with you. God, you are amazing. You're with me everywhere I go. At home, at school, at grandma's. I know you'll be right there. God, you are amazing. You're with me every day. When I'm awake or I'm asleep, right by my side, you'll stay. God listens. He hears us. Let's go for Oreos. Oreos. I don't have to close my eyes or kneel down when I pray. Even when I think I'm praying. You hear what I say? Athena, don't eat his toys. Trouble. You listen when I'm happy. You listen when I'm sad. And just to know you hear my prayers makes me really glad. Promises. Come near to God, and He will come near to you. God, help me think about you every single day, each morning and at bedtime, and even when I play. God, help me to remember to always talk to you. And each day you'll be near to me, and I'll be near to you. Loving others. You must love one another just as I have loved you. God, help me to love others the way you want me to. Help me to be thoughtful and kind in all I do. Help me to be generous. Help me smile and share. Help me to be friendly so others know I care. God's friend. I have called you friends. God, I've never had a friend as wonderful as you. You say you'll always love me, no matter what I do. So can you please remind me when I'm alone or sad? Bless you. To talk to you, my big strong friend, the best I ever had. Thank you, God. God saw everything He had made, and it was very good. God, you made the big wide world, the earth, the sky, the seas, the mountains, stars, and animals, each flower and each tree. I thank you for creating all that I can see. But out of everything you made, thanks for making me. Why is this all? Oh, it's all twisty turny. That's why. God sees. You are the God who sees me. God, I know you love me, and by my side you'll stay. Thanks for watching over me in your special way. God, I know you see me. You're with me as I pray. Thanks for watching over me 10 times today. God's word. Your word is like a lamp that shows me the way. It is like a light that guides me. God, when I have a question or don't know what to do, I know I can trust your words, for everyone is true. Your word is like the brightest light that helps me find my way. Thanks for shining down on me each and every day. Awesome God, every good and perfect gift is from God. Dear God, I think you're awesome. You're wonderful to me. I think of all the gifts you give and how they're all for free. My home, my friends, my family, my days filled up with fun. But most of all, I thank you for giving me your son. All right, now, water, and then we continue with our Christmas story. The Joseph's Christmas by L.M. Montgomery. The month before Christmas was always the most exciting and mysterious time in the Joseph household. Such scheming and planning, such counting of small hoards, such hiding and smuggling of things out of sight, as went on among the little Josephs. During this particular December, the planning and contriving had been more difficult and the result less satisfactory than usual. The Josephs were poor at any time. This winter they were poorer than ever. But on Christmas Eve, every little Joseph went to bed with a clear conscience, for was there not on the corner table in the kitchen, a small mountain of tiny, sometimes very tiny, gifts labeled with the names of recipients and givers? It was beginning to snow when the small Josephs went to bed, and when the big small Josephs climbed the stairs, it was snowing thickly. Mr. and Mrs. Joseph sat down before the fire and listened to the wind howling about the house. Glad I'm not driving over the prairie tonight, said Mr. Joseph. It's quite a storm, Mary. This is the first Christmas since we came west that we couldn't afford some little extras for them, even if it was only a box of nuts and candy. Mrs. Joseph sighed over Jimmy's worn jacket that she was mending. But then she smiled at Mr. Joseph. Never mind, John, she said. Things will be better next Christmas, we'll hope. We've got each other and good health and spirits, and Christmas wouldn't be much without those if we had all the presents in the world. Mr. Joseph nodded. That's so. I don't want to grumble, but I did want to get Maggie a real live doll, as she calls it. There was one at Fisher's store today, a big beauty with real hair and eyes that opened and shut. Just fancy Maggie's face if she saw that tomorrow morning. Don't let's fancy it, laughed Mrs. Joseph. That can't be someone at the door. It is, though, said Mr. Joseph as he strode to the door and flung it open. Choo. Two snowed-up figures were standing on the porch. When they stepped in, Joseph recognized one of them as Mr. Ralston, a wealthy merchant in a town 15 miles away. Late hour for callers, isn't it? Said Mr. Ralston. And the fact is, our horse was about given out, and the storm is so bad that we can't proceed. This is my wife, and we are on our way to spend Christmas with my brother's family at Lindsay. Can you take us in for the night, Mr. Joseph? Certainly, and welcome, exclaimed Mr. Joseph heartily. I'll see to putting your horse away now, Mr. Ralston. This way, if you please. When the two men came into the house again, Mrs. Ralston and Mrs. Joseph were sitting by the fire. Mr. Ralston put the big basket he was carrying down on a bench in the corner. Fine. Better bring our Christmas flummery in. He said, you see, Mrs. Joseph, my brother has a big family, so we are taking them a lot of Santa Claus stuff. Mrs. Ralston packed this basket, and goodness knows what she put in it, but she half cleaned out my store. Mrs. Joseph gave a little sigh in spite of herself and looked wistfully at the heap of gifts on the corner table. Mrs. Ralston looked too. Santa Claus seems to have visited you already, she said. Joseph laughed. Our Santa Claus is somewhat out of pocket this year, said Mr. Joseph frankly. The shakedown was spread in the kitchen for the unexpected guests, and presently the Ralstons found themselves alone. Mrs. Ralston went over to the Christmas table and looked at the little gifts half tenderly and half pityingly. They're not much like the contents of our basket, are they? She said, as she touched the calendar Jimmy had made for Molly out of cardboard and autumn leaves and grasses. Just what I was thinking, returned her husband, and I was thinking of something else too. I have a notion that I'd like to see some of the things in our basket right here on this table. I'd like to see them all on this table, said Mrs. Ralston promptly. Let's just leave them here, Edward. Roger's family will have plenty of presents without them. And for that matter, we can send them ours when we go back home. Just as you say, agreed Mr. Ralston. I very much like the idea of giving the small folk of this household a rousing good Christmas for once. Then, by comparing the names attached to the gifts on the table, they managed to divide theirs up pretty evenly among the little Josephs. When all was done, Mrs. Ralston said, we'll be going before daylight, probably, and in the hurry of getting off, I hope that Mr. and Mrs. Joseph will not notice the difference till we're gone. It fell out as Mrs. Ralston had planned. Breakfast for the travelers was cooked and eaten by lamplight. Then the horse and sleigh were brought to the door, and Mr. Ralston carried out his empty basket. Goodbye and a Merry Christmas to you all, he said. Mrs. Joseph went back to the kitchen, and her eyes fell on the heaped-up table in the corner. Why, Mrs. Joseph said, and snatched off the cover. Mr. Joseph came to and looked and whistled in shock. There really seemed to be everything on that table that the hearts of children could desire. 3 pairs of skates, a fur cap, half a dozen gleaming new books, a writing desk, a pair of fur-topped gloves, and a china cup and saucer. Yeah, baby, let's leave that alone, okay? I know it's dry. Put some Neosporin on it before we go to bed, okay? All these were to be seen at the first glance, and in one corner of the table was a big box filled with candies and nuts and raisins, and in the other a doll with curling golden hair and brown eyes dressed in real clothes and with all her wardrobe in a trunk beside her, pinned to her dress was a note with Maggie's name written on it. The children will go wild with delight. Come on, do it for me. Said Mrs. Joseph happily. They pretty nearly did when they all came scrambling down the stairs a little later. Such a Christmas had never been known in the Joseph household before. Maggie clasped her doll with shining eyes, and as for the big box of good things, why, everybody appreciated that. I'm glad to be able to say, too, the little Josephs did not forget to appreciate the gifts they had prepared for each other. Molly thought the calendar just too pretty for anything, and Jimmy was sure the new mittens that Maggie had knitted for him were the nicest mittens ever worn. I know we're going to put Neosporin on it when we're done, okay? It's just a little scrape. It's really not that big of a deal. I know. The Cratchits' Christmas Goose, an extract from A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, you're doing pretty good there, kiddo.
Hello, boy.
You're fine. The Cratchit family are a poor family living in Victorian London. Martha works away from home and only gets one day off. The Cratchits have no oven, so their goose is cooked at the baker's and then brought home. And they boil their pudding in the large copper bowl, which they usually use for washing their clothes. What has ever got your precious father then, said Mrs. Cratchit, and your brother, Tiny Tim, and Martha? She wasn't as late last Christmas Day by half an hour.
Hello, boy.
Here's Martha, Mother, said a girl appearing as she spoke. Here's Martha, Mother, cried the two young Cratchits. Hooray! There's such a goose, Mother. Why, bless your heart alive, my dear, how late you are, said Mrs. Cratchit, kissing her a dozen times and taking off her shawl and bonnet for her. We'd a deal of work to finish up last night, replied the girl, and had to clear away this morning, Mother. Well, never mind, so long as you're come. That's a weird way of wording that, but I guess that's how the book was written, said Mrs. Cratchit. Sit ye down before the fire, my dear, and have a warm, Lord bless you. No, no, there's father coming, cried the two young Cratchits, who worked everywhere at once. Hide, Martha, hide. So Martha hid herself, and in came little Bob, the father, with at least 3 feet of comforter hanging down before him, and his threadbare clothes darned up and brushed to look seasonable, and Tiny Tim upon his shoulder. Alas for Tiny Tim, he bore no crutch, and had his limbs supported by an iron frame. Why, where's our Martha? Cried Bob Cratchit, looking around. Not coming, said Mrs. Cratchit. Not coming, said Bob. Coming on Christmas Day. Martha didn't like to see him disappointed, even if it were a joke. So she came out from behind the closet door and ran into his arms. The two young Cratchits hustled Tiny Tim and bore him off into the wash house, that he might hear the pudding singing in the copper. And how did little Tim behave? Asked Mrs. Cratchit, and she had rallied Bob on his credulity. And Bob had hugged his daughter to his heart's content. As good as gold, said Bob, and better. His little crutch was heard on the floor, and back came Tiny Tim before another word was spoken, escorted by his brother and sister to a stool before the fire. Hello, Bob, turning up his cuffs, compounded some hot mixture in a jug with lemons, and stirred it round and round. Put it on the hob to simmer. Master Peter and the two young Cratchits went to fetch the goose, which they soon returned in high procession. Yeah, I don't think we can do anything with that. What is in your nail? We took a shower. How's your nail so dirty? You might have thought a goose the rarest of all birds, and in truth, it was something like that in this house. Mrs. Cratchit made the gravy, ready beforehand in a little saucepan, hissing hot. Master Peter mashed the potatoes with incredible vigor. Miss Belinda sweetened up the applesauce, and Martha dusted the hot plates. Bob took Tiny Tim beside him in a tiny corner at the table. The two young Cratchits set chairs for everybody, not forgetting themselves, and mounting guard upon their posts, crammed spoons in their mouths, lest they should shriek for goose before their turn came to be helped. At last the dishes were set on the table, and grace was said. It was succeeded by a breathless pause as Mrs. Cratchit, looking slowly all along the carving knife, prepared to plunge it into the breast. But when she did, and with a long expected gush of stuffing issued forth, one murmur of delight arose all around the table, and even Tiny Tim, excited by the two young Cratchits, beat on the table with the handle of his knife and cried, "Hooray!" "There never was such a goose," Bob said. He didn't believe there ever was such a goose cooked. Its tenderness and flavor, size and cheapness, was the themes of universal admiration. Eked out by the applesauce and mashed potatoes, it was a sufficient dinner for the whole family. Indeed, as Mrs. Cratchit said with great delight, surveying one small atom of a bone on the dish, they hadn't eaten it all. They hadn't eaten it all at last. Yet everyone had had enough, and the youngest Cratchits in particular were steeped in sage and onion to the eyebrows. But now the plates being changed by Miss Belinda, Mrs. Cratchit left the room alone, too nervous to bear witness, to take the pudding up and bring it in. Surprise! Suppose it should not be done enough. Suppose it should break in turning out. Suppose somebody should have got over the wall of the backyard and stolen the pudding while they were merry with the goose. All sorts of horrors were supposed. Hello! A great deal of steam. The pudding was out of the copper. A smell like a washing day. That was the cloth. A smell like an eating house and a pastry cook's next door to each other, with the laundress next door to that. That was the pudding. In half a minute, Mrs. Cratchit entered, flushed, but smiling proudly, carrying the pudding, which looked like a speckled cannonball, so hard and firm, blazing in half of half a quarantine of ignited brandy, and with Christmas hollies stuck on top. "Oh, a wonderful pudding," Bob Cratchit said, quite calmly, that he regarded it as the greatest success Mrs. Cratchit had achieved since their marriage. Mrs. Cratchit said that now the weight was off her mind. She would confess that she had her doubts about the quantity of flour. Everybody had something to say about it, and nobody said or thought it was at all a small pudding for so large a family. It would have been flat hearsay to do so, and any Cratchit would have blushed to hint at such a thing. At last the dinner was all done. The cloth was cleared, the hearth swept, and the fire made up. The compound in the jug being tasted and considered perfect, apples and oranges were put upon the table, and a shovel full of chestnuts on the fire. Then all the Cratchit family drew round the hearth, in which Bob Cratchit called a circle, meaning half a one. And at Bob Cratchit's elbow stood the family display of glass, 2 tumblers and a custard cup without a handle. These held the hot stuff from the jug, however, as well as golden goblets would have done, and Bob served it out with beaming looks, while the chestnuts on the fire sputtered and crackled noisily. Then Bob proposed a Merry Christmas to all, my dears. God bless us. Which all the family re-echoed. God bless us, everyone, said Tiny Tim, the last of all. And where are we on time? Okay. We did 20 minutes. So we will sing Figgy Pudding tomorrow to start ourselves off. Okay? And then after we do that, we are on to the last section of this book, which is Goodwill and Giving. Okay? All right. By hand, it shouldn't take that long because it's a small space. You don't need to learn how to stand things. Oi. All right, dear. Can you say good night? No? All right. Well, good night, everyone, and we will see you tomorrow. Good night.